Hello and welcome to Dan Loves Food. Can you hear me okay? Hopefully you can. Having some technical difficulties this evening, but that's sometimes how we roll, especially in live streaming. That's just part of the fun of it all. Always exciting around here. Sound okay? Excellent. We're here. We did it. So sorry we're running a little bit late, but we will get started right away. So if you're new here, hi, my name is Anne, and I am going to share with you my process for meal prepping and meal planning to make sure that we have delicious weeknight dinners on the table without too much stress or fuss, because, you know, ain't nobody got time for that on a busy weeknight. So this week we're going to be prepping 3 items. One is a zuppa toscana, kind of Olive Garden sort of inspired soup. That's actually what's for dinner this evening. Tomorrow we're going to be having a barria kind of style taco, which I'll show you my kind of cheater version because there's like a million steps to do it authentically. So we're going to get 90% of the way there with about 10% of the effort, which is what we're all about here. And then finally, we are going to do a roasted Brussels sprout and bacon gnocchi for dinner one night. So that will be the final dish of the week. So we normally do 3 meals prepped and ready to go. And then we keep things like frozen pizza and frozen tamales and soup and other things just on hand so that if we need a 4th or a 5th meal during the week, we have that, but we also have some flexibility in terms of like takeout. But if we plan 3 meals and we prep 3 meals, then we make sure that we get some meals with delicious, you know, nutritious vegetables and fresh food in there. And we always have leftovers because I don't know how to cook for like less than 6 people. So that's part of the fun is leftovers, if you ask me. So we're going to get started with this zuppa toscana because, like I said, that is dinner tonight. So I'm going to open up the fridge here, and we have some sausage that we're going to use. We just buy this sweet Italian sausage from Costco. It's really yummy. It's very reasonably priced and easy to come by because we are always shopping at Costco. I'm also going to grab some bacon that we're going to use in the Brussels sprout gnocchi. But right now we're just going to get this out of the package and get this into the crock pot. So if you're new here, this is a crock pot that has a sear and saute function on it. I would highly recommend that you get one of those if you are in the market for a crock pot because it just makes life so much easier. So I am actually prepping over a plate over a cutting board so I don't have to wash my cutting board because we try and avoid washing too much if we don't have to around here. Now, I will let you know, these are relatively new kitchen shears that I have in my hand, and I nearly took off a finger with them the other night. So I'm being a little more cautious than normal, which I'm normally pretty cautious. But I really thought I hurt myself for a minute. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to cut the casing off of the sausages, and we'll just throw those in the pot to get cooked up. So we're just going to brown that in there, and that will be the base for our zuppa. Now, if you're not familiar with zuppa toscana, it is something they serve at Olive Garden. It's a dish that they're very, very popular. It's very, very popular there, and it's one of my husband's absolute favorites. It has sausage and potatoes. A lot of the copycat recipes online call for bacon. We're not going to do that today, not because we don't have bacon, but because bacon is in another meal this week. So while I do not believe there is such thing as too much bacon, you know, we'll just not try and have it in every meal. So if you are popping on, please say hello. I love to chat. If you've got any questions for me, I'm happy to answer it as we go here. These are the sweet Italian sausages. They sometimes sell the hot ones, and I can tell you that they are, I think they're delicious, but they are a little warm if, you know, if hot really isn't your thing. So I can hear that warming up behind me. We've got the first sausages back there ready to go. So This soup has a sausage, and then it has kale and potatoes and chicken stock and a little bit of cream. And so, yeah, of course it's delicious. What's not to love about that? So I just cut all of the sausages out of their casings, and we'll put this over here in the sink. And we'll wash our hands because we touched raw meat. So for the barria taco situation, I did not actually get out my chili peppers, but we will. So I'm going to make the sauce, the marinade, whatever you want to call it, in my blender. So you'll notice that this is an Instant Pot Ace blender. I bought this a while ago and kind of had mixed feelings about the whole thing. It's a blender that actually cooks, which is not, I just wasn't convinced that that was something I needed in my life, a blender that cooks, but I figured I got a really good deal on it and it was worth a try. And so I gave it a try. And I have to say that in applications like this, it is wonderful because what it's going to do is it's going to take those peppers and it's going to, first of all, kind of cook them. It's going to soak them in the hot water, which is the first step that you would use in making a dried pepper sauce like this. And then it's also going to blend it up. So if you've ever tried to transfer hot liquid into a blender, you will know how precarious that can be. That is a good way to end up with some very serious burns, scalds, bad situations. So do not recommend that if you don't have to. I'm washing both our potatoes and our Brussels sprouts in this here. This is a salad spinner, but I use it for all of my veggie washing. So we're just going to let that get full of water, and I'm going to grab out the chili. So I have 3 different types of chili for you. This is not an area of expertise of mine. I love Mexican food. I am okay at cooking it, and that just is what it is. But we have anchos, we have chili de arbol, and we have guajillo chilies. So luckily for me, there are indicators on back about how spicy each of these peppers is. So this one is hot, these little guys. These are more mild and these are more mild. So these are basically just dried poblanos. That's probably something most of us are familiar with. And then these are a medium chili. So my husband does not like the spice, so we're going to keep it low on spice but high on flavor. But this is the blender, and I actually used it to make hot sauce this weekend, which was super cool. But this is actually a heating element on the bottom, and it's just going to give us the opportunity to do all of this work. It's just going to do all the work for us, so we don't have to. So I do not have a garbage bowl out yet, so I'm going to grab one of those. So we're just going to take a handful of chilies and we're going to get these seeds out. So I'm just going to do 3 of these little guys because they are spicy. And we're going to get most of the seeds out with the dried pepper so that we don't burn anybody's face off because that's no good. And we're just going to put them in the blender. And we're going to put them in the blender with some carrots, some onion, some apple cider vinegar, and some chicken stock. So if you're new around here, one of the things that I like to do is always have chicken stock, like when I can, right? There's no food shaming here. If this is not you, don't worry about it. But when I make chicken stock, I make a bunch of it and I freeze it. And so I like to have it on hand for recipes like this one, because there is a difference, you know, in taste and flavor and texture too, actually. These are the ancho or ancho chilies. We're going to do 2 of these guys. There's a pretty significant difference when you're talking about chicken stock being fresh versus being from, you know, one of those little containers or the better than bouillon. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely do all of those options in my kitchen. I'm not one of these food snobs who will tell you that there's only one way, and the one way is to make your own. Please do not mishear me. That is not what we were saying here. So, got the seeds out of there. But we'll just use that frozen homemade chicken stock. I've had it thawing all day, so it'll be ready for us. And we're gonna blend this out. I decided to spare you the blender noises in this live. I was like, how am I gonna do that? So I won't do that to your ears because that sounds like a not nice thing to do. So instead, I will post the finished product once I do hit blend in our brand new Facebook group, which I'll tell you about here in a minute. But right now, I'm going to go over with our fancy dancy meat masher. If you don't have one of these things, they're definitely worth the handful of bucks that they cost. They just let you get in there and mash up meat really easily. And for soup, like we're doing here, that's really handy. We're just trying to make sure that these sausages get a bit sear on them. And we don't need anything to be perfect here because we're going to cook this in soup. Which means I need to get working on the potatoes shortly because we're going to need those. So I just started a new Facebook group, and I would love to have you join us. It is completely free, and it is just an opportunity for us to come together and talk about making dinner easier. I know that you have brilliant things to say on the topic, and I have some things to say with my over a decade working in restaurants. I've got, some tips, tricks, and advice to share, and I thought it would just be so much more fun if we could have real conversations. So I started a Facebook group. It's called Easy Weeknight Meals with Nan Loves Food. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please join us over there, and I'll show you how this this situation turns out. I've made similar recipes to this one, but not this one exactly. This is very similar to how you can do like a homemade enchilada sauce, which is delicious. I had hoped to grow my own peppers this year, which I was successful at, but not enough to get to this level where I had plenty to dehydrate. We had plenty for fresh eating, but that was about it. So maybe next year. All right, so we've got the majority of the seeds out there. And we're just going to set this to the side for a few minutes while we work on our potatoes. I'm actually going to two-hand this one because it's having a hard time breaking up a little bit because that sausage was in the casing. Because it's just a struggle, and I don't want big chunks of sausage in them. So please forgive my backside for a moment while we get this taken care of. But we've got a good sear on there, and as a matter of fact, I'd like to throw a little bit of onion into this soup. And I have one that I half prepped for something else and then didn't end up using, so we're going to use that real fast. And just throw that in there while you're sauteing. So this is how I keep a lot of my produce when I'm, midway through using stuff. I just use these little deli containers. They're very inexpensive. You can get ones that are freezer safe, which is handy. So if you freeze stuff in there, because it's like this, you can flip it over and just pop stuff out pretty easy, which is really, really nice. So hello, if you are joining, welcome. If you want to chat, please feel free to say hello in the comments. I'd love to know what you're having for dinner tonight. So we're just going to give this a pretty rough chop so we can get it in with the sausage and get a little of that caramelization happening there. Now I will tell you a great trade secret for making people think that you really, really know how to cook. Just saute some onions and garlic. That's the whole trick. People will think like, oh, what are you cooking? It smells so good in here. It's like, yeah, garlic and onion. It smells good. Tastes good too. People are impressed by the oddest things, but smell is certainly a part of how we eat and how we appreciate flavor. So it's really funny when, you know, those trade secrets come to light that you can do like apple pie, chocolate chip cookies, or onions and garlic, and people think, wow, your house smells amazing. You must be a really good cook. Maybe, maybe not. But so I'm just using our little potato scrubber here. This was actually a gift, but I would never have bought something like this. Like, I'm not very into unitaskers in my kitchen, which a unitasker, I'm pretty sure Alton Brown coined that phrase. But just, you know, a kitchen gadget that can only do one thing. But I have to say, I scrub a lot of potatoes in my kitchen. And we're not going to worry too much about getting these scrubbed up too bad or too much, because we're just going to peel them anyways. I really like potato skins in a lot of applications, but in my soup, I don't really want to mess with the skin. But sometimes I'm just too lazy, you know, to do anything about it. So sometimes you just can't be bothered with peeling a potato. The device I'm using is called a Y peeler. It's called that because it makes a Y. At least I assume. It could have a deeper meaning than that, but pretty sure it's just because it looks like a Y. And I find this much easier to peel with than the traditional like long and skinny one. That is a personal preference thing, but when I saw other people on YouTube cooking with one of these, I was like, you know, that makes a lot of sense. So, all right, I can hear that sausage going crazy back there. So we're just gonna take a little stir, see how we're doing. A little mash for two. Those onions aren't quite where I want them to be. So I'm just gonna let that go for another minute or two, and then we will add our chicken stock. So when I freeze chicken stock in the freezer, I just use mason jars. You can totally freeze in mason jars. There will be people on the internet who tell you that you cannot. Those people are wrong. The thing that you cannot do with mason jars and freezers is overfill them and then freeze them. If you have too much liquid in a vessel and the vessel expands, or the vessel doesn't expand, the liquid expands because you freeze it, then your glass will break. That will happen. So you just need to make sure you give it kind of enough shoulder. I overfill these just a skosh, but if you stay kind of at that corner where the jar starts to go up, you'll be in good shape there. You know, no big deal with that. So you can absolutely freeze chicken stock or other liquid in mason jars. It's funny, all the advice that people have on the internet that is just not true about cooking, or either not true or just not completely accurate. You know, if you've had one explode on you, I understand having your feelings hurt about it, but that doesn't make it an impossible thing to do. So we're going to get these potatoes peeled up, and then we're going to get to work on our Brussels sprouts. So Brussels sprouts are a vegetable that I spent my entire childhood thinking that I hated. And then I got into adulthood and had folks prepare for me, like at restaurants I was working at, good roasted Brussels sprouts. Huh. What a difference from the frozen boiled nonsense I was served as a child. Oh my goodness. They're such a delight. They're such a treat. If you have not tried roasted Brussels sprouts as an adult, I highly, highly recommend that you give those a try because they are so good. And especially the way that we're going to prepare them today, which is to shave them. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But it's a totally different texture than cooking them halved or whole. It just gives it a totally different vibe. And it's somewhere, like Brussels sprouts are kind of cabbagey, and it's somewhere in between a cabbage and what you would think of as a Brussels sprout. But the flavor is so, so good, and the texture is delightful when you get them all roasty. Okay, we're getting some brown goodness in the bottom of this pan. So I'm going to take this off of our sear saute function. I do have some kind of fond, some good browny, delicious bits at the back there. But I'm just going to take my chicken stock. We're going to put this on high, slow cook high, and get that to work. So I'm probably going to go ahead and use, I just put one in. I'm going to put another half in, and then we'll use the other half of this for the barrio tacos for liquid here. And then those will have some liquid to hang out with. So we go through this chicken stock pretty quick in our house. But that's okay. It's a great thing to do if you get one of those rotisserie chickens. It's perfect for that. For those, because if you're going to go to all the work of, getting the meat off of a chicken, you might as well do something with those bones, because otherwise you're just throwing them out, and they have such good flavor. And if you're in a situation where, you just don't have time that day to mess with it, which I totally understand, then don't. Throw it in a zip top bag or a deli container or something and get them later. They will freeze. The bones freeze just fine. You can take them out, throw them in your stock whenever you need them. And they impart so much good flavor, and they also impart that collagen. So like the stuff that comes out of the bones, that's what makes the difference. And that's why bone broth has been such a big deal for the last however long. I'm just kind of cubing up the potatoes into bite-size-ish pieces. We want things that are going to reasonably fit on a spoon. But yeah, bone broth has been known for forever for its kind of medicinal benefits. And, your grandma knew something about that, probably. Mine didn't, but maybe yours did. But it makes such a good, rich broth. And if you put a little bit of the skin in there too, that will, chicken's skin has a ton of fat in it. And you can render off some of that into your stock. It really enhances the overall flavor. Some communities will, take that rendered chicken fat and use it as a product of its very own. It imparts so much flavor there. So we're just going to get these potatoes chunked up here, and then dinner for tonight is almost ready. So the kale is something, I didn't get the kale out. The kale is something we'll do kind of last minute. It doesn't take super long to cook down, and I like mine with a little bite left to it. Just so you know, with potatoes, like there are little gnarly bits like that on your potato, just cut it off. It's fine. Like you don't need to throw away the whole potato. And just cut off the bad part and keep on moving. All right, so we have a lovely cutting board full of potatoes. Yum. And we are just going to dump these into our soup. And I have not salted this yet. Potatoes require a ton of salt. They just do. And so it's our job to give them what they're asking for. So I'm just going to do a good sized handful of kosher salt in the pot. And once I'm sure that sausage is cooked and we're getting towards the end, I will make a point to give that a taste test just to make sure we're kind of on the right track there. So I'm going to use the rest of this onion that I had chopped in the fridge. I really just did cut it in half. I was going to make breakfast burritos the other day and got distracted and changed directions. So figured I could always use a peeled onion. So we're going to put that in here along with a couple of carrots and some garlic. So I'm just going to give these carrots a quick scrub. So like I say, I've got my bowl here, and this is just using the same water. Like there's no reason to go crazy here to get these cleaned. These were washed several times, I guarantee, before they got to me, but I just want to kick off any final excess dirt. And then we're just going to cut these up into big chunks because they're going in the blender, and we don't need it to look nice. We don't need it to be uniform. We just want carrot flavor in there. So like I said, we're going to get these just a rough scrub. And then I think that will just about take care of our taco situation. Almost broke a nail. Nearly tragic. It's okay. We're going to be okay. So this is almost done. I think the only thing other than the garlic is I'm going to throw some apple cider vinegar in there. If you're just coming on, please feel free to say hello in the comments. Love to chat a little bit while I'm cooking here. So now that our carrots are good, we will just throw the littlest bit of garlic. That might be too much carrot. It'll be fine. We're not too fussy around here. I think the recipe I read called for like 2 or 3 carrots. So that wasn't too much, I don't think. So I did buy the unpeeled garlic today, like in its normal form. And every time I do this, I remember why I buy the peeled stuff. Because yes, carrots are delicious. I don't know how they'll be in this particular recipe, but I can't imagine they'll hurt anything. I would imagine a little sweetness with our beef is much wanted. So we're just going to give these a little crack. To get the garlic out of the peel, the best way I've found is to just take the back of your knife. Make sure to hit the back, not the front, because you will chop your fingers off. And just give it a good slap. And that will loosen the paper around your garlic clove. So most of the time, it'll just peel right off. It makes life super easy. So we're just going to do 3 cloves. I will probably taste this before we put it in with the beef. Once you've got raw beef in there, I would recommend not tasting it until the beef is cooked. So that is that recipe. Sans some. We're going to get some apple cider vinegar out of the pantry here. We buy the big apple cider vinegar around here because we go through a lot of it. So we'll just do a little glug in there. And we haven't hit that with salt yet either. So like I say, I'm not going to do the blender on the live today because I don't want to bust out your eardrums. But we will post this in the Facebook group and show you how it came out. So we're just going to use that. I have some beef chuck roast here that I got out to show you. But this is just from our local, we have a local farmer that we buy our beef from, and that is going to cook. So once the sauce is done, we will probably wait until tomorrow. I'll sear off the meat in this thing, the crock pot, instant pot, whatever you want to call it, and then add that liquid in, and that'll give us all that like delicious chili flavor in there. So that'll be ready to go. So we're 2 meals down already, just about, minus the kale, which I have to say the kale that came from grocery delivery yesterday, it's looking mighty sad and floppy, but it'll be okay. We're eating it tonight, so all will be well with that. I am going to go ahead and get some fresh water. One of the things you can do to kind of revive kale or any other leafy green, if it's looking a little sad, is to soak it in some cold water. Now, obviously, that's not going to do absolute miracles. It's not going to bring it back from the dead, but it will give it a little bit of life. And the nice thing about kale is that it's so hardy. Like, you can kind of cook the tar out of it, or like it holds up to some things. So we're going to give that a little rinse. And while we're doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and pick it off of the stems. So I always find it interesting when people say they don't like kale. And I wonder what people have done to the kale that they have been fed, because it really just, it tastes green, but it has such lovely texture that it adds to dishes. And I really, really enjoy it. But you definitely do not want to eat this green stem. That is too fibrous, and it does not go well in the mouth. Just not a good idea overall. So you just pick these leaves off, and this will just add so much character to our soup. So if you're just popping on, we are doing a barrio style taco. We've got zuppa toscana going in the crock pot, or the instant pot, slow cooker, whatever you want to call it, behind me. And then we are doing a Brussels sprout gnocchi with bacon. So I haven't quite decided with the Brussels sprout gnocchi if we're going to add a little cream to that at the end when I'm cooking it. Certainly some Parmesan will be involved because Parmesan is involved in all of our pasta decisions around here. So yeah, we'll kind of get a look at it when it's done and see how she's doing. So we're just going to let this kale take in some of this nice cold water, and we are going to get to work on the Brussels sprouts. I'm going to get a big bowl down for those because I probably bought too many, if we're being honest. 1 pound didn't feel like enough, and 2 pounds kind of felt like too many. So I got 2 pounds, like you do. I'm going to go ahead and this is really starting to look good. That kind of fat from the sausage is floating up to the top of the slow cooker. And so things are starting to look yummy in there. We are developing some serious flavor. So today we are going to use a very dangerous tool called the mandolin. If you have not used one of these before, please proceed with caution. They are no joke and will take off bits of your finger. Ask me how I know. Yeah. You are supposed to use a safety glove when you use a mandolin, but because I'm doing Brussels sprouts and I've got a good idea where the thing is, I'm going to risk it. And by risk it, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. But basically, we're just taking the Brussels sprout and we're running it along the blade. You can do this with a knife, but it's a lot easier with the mandolin because the mandolin kind of gives you a consistent shave on your sprout. Now, this is definitely one of those things, if I were preparing this dish for a party or a crowd, I would definitely get out the food processor for this. But that seems like a lot of work to clean. So we're not going to do that tonight. we don't need that many Brussels sprouts. So I've just got my clean Brussels sprouts in my sink down here, and I'm grabbing them out one at a time, and we're just running them across the blade. You can see they're just kind of coming out the back. And what that gives us, I guess you can't see my cutting board. Sorry about that. What that gives us are these delightful shreds. So if you can see, they're just, it's almost like cabbage. And they're so good. When these brown up, which is what you're doing when you roast them, they just take on this whole new life. That browning, roasty texture that happens, oh my goodness, is a thing of beauty. And so what we're going to do is throw all of these things onto a sheet pan. The Brussels sprouts, the gnocchi, and the bacon. So I'm going to cut up some bacon here. And we're just going to roast it all together. And I've been in the mood for Brussels sprouts because it's fall. And fall means it's getting cold. At least it's starting to get cold here. And it feels like it's time for fall vegetables. And so that's why I've got kind of the warming spices from the tacos, got the cabbage from the Brussels sprouts or the cabbage kind of family, and then the nice warm soup. I was definitely in a cozy mood when I planned this week's menu. So we're just going to keep shaving these up, and then we'll slice up some bacon. The bacon is going to go in a separate container just to keep it, keep things apart until it's time to cook. We're going to cut the bacon up into chunks that we'll just cook in with that Brussels sprout and give that bacon flavor all the way through our Brussels sprouts and then all the way through our gnocchi. So if you're not familiar with gnocchi is a potato-based pasta. So potatoes are cooked and boiled and mashed up with some flour, and they take them and form them into little pastas that look like this. This is an awesome thing to have on hand in your pantry. These are good until May of 22, and it is October. So they last a really long time in your pantry, and they are so, so good. And they fill your soul. I don't know. It gives you that warm pasta belly, you know what I mean? So I think we've made some pretty good progress on the Brussels sprouts. I won't bore you with processing hundreds of thousands of Brussels sprouts in front of you, but we have a good start here on the Brussels sprout goodness. And then we are just going to take our bacon. Now this is more than we will need for this one recipe, so we'll just keep some of it out, or keep some of it in the package so that we don't need it all. I'll take probably half a pound here of this bacon. And I'm just going to cut it into pretty good sized chunks, maybe a little bit bigger than an inch. And like I say, that will cook with our Brussels sprouts and give them all that delicious bacon flavor. And again, I am just going to use one of these little deli things. This is the one that the onion was in, but it's fine. So I've just got my bacon cut up into pieces here. And so when it's time to make that meal, I'm just going to dump the bacon, the Brussels sprouts, and the gnocchi all in the sheet pan, put a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt and pepper, and throw it in there and walk away. And dinner will be done when I come back. It will be glorious. I love, love, love when I do things like this for myself because it just takes such a load off on weeknight meals. So basically, that is everything I have today. If we were only here for, 40 minutes? And we have 3 meals basically done. Now, I will make up our little sauce here and see how that goes. And I'll let you know in the Facebook group. Go over to facebook.com and type in weeknight meals with Nan Loves Food, and our group will show up, and you can join over there and see what the outcome of that was. But we've got the tacos, It'll just be that and some tacos. Oh, we're going to slice up some cilantro. That was the other thing. But anyways, I've got some cilantro. I'll probably just do it with scissors the day of. Again, very sad produce from Walmart this week. So we'll do some cilantro and some onion on top of the tacos, and we'll cook some corn tortillas, and that's going to be dinner. Super easy. So tacos one night, we'll have the zuppa toscana tonight, and then we will have that Brussels sprout gnocchi with the shaved Brussels sprouts, the bacon, and the gnocchi tossed with a little bit of olive oil, salt, and pepper, and probably sprinkled with a little Parmesan cheese. And if we're feeling frisky, I might add a little heavy cream to cream things up a little bit. But I know that will be absolutely delicious. So thank you so much for tuning in today. If you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Out here.